Welcome, everyone. This is the Masterclass. My name is Patrick Nazareth. I have around 30 years of teaching experience and I would like to help dispel your doubts, should you have any. Today, we are going to study Julius Caesar, specifically Act 1, Scene 3. Let us first examine why Act 1, Scene 3 is important. It is in this act that the conspiracy becomes real. Before this, the conspiracy was just an idea of Cassius. After this, we have an organized group. You have different members, you have a timeline and a concrete plan. This is where thought becomes action and it sets a specific date for Caesar's assassination, the Ides of March. It also tells us very clearly how the plan to recruit Brutus is going to be carried out, how he is going to be manipulated. Without this scene, we would not understand why Brutus would join the conspiracy in the first place. And it reveals to us that Brutus is needed not for anything else, but just to give this plan some moral legitimacy. This is the dramatic turning point where the conspiracy transforms from idea to reality. The mechanism for Brutus's recruitment is established. The atmosphere is one of dread and cosmic significance. We have major themes over here. Interpretation, manipulation, fate versus free will are developed. Moral complexity is established. There are no easy heroes here. There are no easy villains over here. The play goes from just talking about things to rising action. This particular scene is the dramatic engine that drives the entire tragedy forward. It has great depth that make it timeless. Human choice, political ideology, natural disorder, cosmic faith, everything collide, thus creating conditions that must inevitably lead to tragedy. Without this scene, perhaps Julius Caesar would be a lesser play, lacking urgency, atmospheric power, and the complex moral questions that make it a masterpiece. Act 1, Scene 3 then. The location is on a street. Who are the characters here? 4 of them: Casca, Cicero, Cassius, and Cinna. What is happening? A terrible storm is brewing. There are strange supernatural events. What are these events? A slave's hand burns, like 20 torches joined together, but it still stays intact. There is a lion in the streets of Rome, which walks past without attacking. There are men on fire. Women are swearing that they have seen men walking around, fully aflame, but yet not being burned by the fire. There is an owl being heard at noontime. Remember, owls come out at night, completely unnatural. The tempest itself, it appears to be dropping fire, not rain. What is Cassius' interpretation of the signs? That they are warnings against Caesar's growing power. He reveals his conspiracy plot to Casca. Casca agrees to join him. Then they decide how to win over Brutus by leaving him fake letters, forged letters, in order for him to see them and be convinced. The first 40 lines, it tells us about the storm and the omens. It is between two people, Casca and Cicero. We are given the setting. There is a violent thunderstorm with lightning. Casca is terrified. Cicero, he appears calm and unimpressed. Casca is describing the supernatural omens that we have already discussed. We see what is Casca's interpretation. It is the part of men to fear and tremble when the most mighty gods by token send such dreadful heralds. What is the simple translation? Men, you and me, should be afraid when God sends such terrible warnings. He sees it as a divine warning of disaster. What is Cicero's response? He is skeptical, he is philosophical. Indeed, he agrees that it is a strange disposed time. It is something out of the ordinary. But people interpret things to fit their own ideas of what is right and wrong, not what they actually mean. Lines 41 to 100, where Cassius finds Casca. Cassius walks in through the storm. He is deliberate. He is unafraid of what is going on. His chest is bare, open to the lightning, almost challenging the storm. What is Cassius's interpretation? It is specifically about Caesar. It simply means that Caesar has become too powerful and he must be cut to size. So there are 3 interpretations of this storm. Casca sees fear. He fears that there is divine punishment coming. Cicero, people simply imagine whatever they want to imagine. They think what they need to think. What does Cassius say? They are political. It's warnings against Caesar's tyranny. Then Cassius reveals his plan to Casca. He says what he is going to do in order to prevent Caesar from coming to power, because if he does, I know where I will wear this dagger then. In other words, he will kill himself. In lines 101 to 130, Cassius is recruiting Casca. He tests Casca first. He simply speaks in riddles about how dangerous Romans are meeting tonight. He mentions that there is a conspiracy effort. What is Casca's response? He is interested. I will set this foot of mine as far as who goes furthest. In other words, if it is a just cause, if it is a proper cause, I am ready to join. Why does he join this? He is not motivated by honor like Brutus. He is a cynical person, a person who thinks negatively. He is bitter. He personally dislikes Caesar, and there are no principles either pushing him into recruitment or holding him back. Then we come to another important part of the entire plan to win Brutus. Lines 131 to 170. A third conspirator joins them. Sinner. Cassius has written these forged letters. They are allegedly from citizens. They are to be placed on his judge's chair. They are to be thrown in through his window, attached by wax to the statue of his ancestor, where Brutus will find them. Why do they need Brutus to join them? Because without Brutus's honor, it is simply a conspiracy by people who are envious of Caesar's power, who simply want to destroy Caesar because he's become more powerful than them. If Brutus joins, it is about nobility, it is about honor, it is about principle and ethics. A meeting is planned. They are all going to meet at Pompey's porch, a place in Rome. Everybody will be there. Who are they? The names of the conspirators: Decius, Tribonius, Metellus Cimber. We understand that only Brutus remains to be won over, and Cassius is absolutely certain. Brutus is almost convinced. One more meeting will win him completely. The characters over here: Casca, who is initially superstitious, he is fearful. He describes the omens he has seen, and he is easily swayed by Cassius's arguments. Cassius comes across as the chief architect of the conspiracy. He interprets these omens, these warnings. Act against Caesar before it is too late. Cicero is there, a brief appearance which shows him as rational and cautious. He warns against people interpreting events to suit their own ends. Cinna, a minor conspirator who is given the forged letters so that Brutus can be manipulated. What are the literary devices that Shakespeare has used to bring his point across? Firstly, pathetic fallacy, where nature itself reflects human emotions or events. The violent storm reflects the growing chaos that is going to unfold in Rome. Foreshadowing, the storm showing us violence and deaths. The opening of graves showing us deaths. Supernatural omens, tragedy, fire, destruction, and war. There is metaphor. Caesar is compared to the storm. What Cassius says: "Now could I, Casca, name to thee a man most like this dreadful night that thunders, lightens, opens graves, and roars." Romans themselves as servants or animals, compared to hens, which are female deer or servants. Tyranny as bondage. From bondage will deliver Cassius. He's threatening to commit suicide. Simile, like 20 torches joined. As doth the lion in the Capitol, shakes like a thing infirm. This personification, the ambitious ocean. The ocean is given a human trait, that of ambition. Imagery, a tempest dropping fire. Men, all in fire, walk up and down the streets. Bird of night did sit, even at noonday upon the marketplace, hooting and shrieking. Symbolism, the storm, the fires, the lion in the Capitol. The darkness, the night, showing us secrecy, evil. Unarmed burning hand, showing us everything that is going to happen. Dramatic irony. We understand that assassination is going to lead to civil war and the fall of the Republic. We can see Cassius is manipulating Brutus. We can see the conspiracy forming. Rhetorical questions. And why should Caesar be a tyrant then? Who is so firm that cannot be seduced? Repetition. Cassius from bondage will deliver Cassius. Never till tonight, never till now. Constant repetition, hammering things into us. Allusion, old Brutus's statue, the Capitol, Pompey's porch, giving us not just landmarks, but the ideas that live on in those landmarks. Contrast or antithesis, the chaos of the storm versus the control of Cassius. Fire that burns but doesn't harm. The fear of Casca and the courage of Cassius. What are the main themes that exist in Act 1, Scene 3? Firstly, omens and supernatural elements. It mirrors the political chaos that is brewing in Rome. Shakespeare uses pathetic fallacy very well to reflect the disorder that will inevitably happen once Julius Caesar is assassinated. The interpretation of signs, how different people interpret things differently. Casca, fearful. Cassius, interpreting them politically. Cicero, understanding that people use signs and interpret them according to their own desires and meanings. Manipulation and rhetoric. how Cassius skillfully manipulates Casca's fear and persuades him to join the conspiracy. Tyranny versus freedom. The debate whether Caesar should become a king, whether he should gain absolute power, and whether he threatens the very Roman idea of liberty that forms the ideological center of the conspiracy. Right? Then, as usual, I have given you key quotes from the passages. We have discussed the lines. Here are some key quotes from Act 1, Scene 3, where I have explained who the speaker is, the context of these lines, and the explanation. Please pause the video, go through them, and understand them one by one. It will be beneficial to you. Here, like before, I have given you vocabulary. Shakespeare writes in Old English, you might find it difficult to follow. Here I've translated those words, those phrases into simple English that you and others like you can follow easily. Again, pause the video, look at them, read this particular Act 1, Scene 3 if possible, and you can see where they come up in the passage and you can understand the passage better. Here I have left you some practice questions that might come up in the examination. Please do go through them, the questions, and then look at the answers. You will be able to get a good base if this scene does come up in the examinations. Here are some exam tips. Let me tell you what examiners look for. Firstly, they look for the storm and the number of supernatural omens. Secondly, they ask you to understand the three interpretations of the omens by Casca, by Cicero, and by Cassius. Thirdly, they ask you to understand how Cassius uses the omens to manipulate and recruit Casca. Fourthly, how the forged letters are used by Cassius. And fifthly, why is Brutus important to the conspiracy? That's the lesson there for you then. I do hope I have been of help. If I have, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Remember, there are others who would be requiring our help. Thank you so much for watching.